fun story. Thanks for coming, Annie. And then, yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about your purpose. Some tools to help you find your purpose. Who feels like they know exactly what their purpose and mission is? Who would like some help with figuring that out? Okay, then I'll share these tools. So, I've found that when you're trying to discover what your purpose is, the best person to ask is God. God knows. He knows why you're here. The second best person to ask is yourself. Because your soul already knows. This soul has been with your being forever. It was here, like you had your soul before you came to this planet. So your premortal existence, in that existence, I believe that you signed up for certain tasks and assignments or certain experiences. I don't think that Jesus Christ and Joseph Smith were the only ones that were foreordained to do things on this planet. I believe that everybody has things that you're here to experience and to do to help the planet and to also promote your personal growth. Because heaven knows what I'm doing with my business has been one of the biggest growth experiences in my life. And it's something I never thought. Like, I literally thought I was going to be a health coach and get married and have kids and be a housewife and do some art. Like, nowhere in the plan was there anything about speaking, writing, books, whatever. But here it is. I'm writing my second book right now. And it's just as challenging as the first one, but that's okay. Because it's going to be awesome and it's going to help change lives. And that's what needs to happen. So the purpose that every one of you has is bigger than yourself. And if you can tune into that right now while you're going through this divorce or trial or heartbreak or experience, if you can tune into the bigger purpose, it's going to help motivate you and propel you past what it is that you're dealing with right now. If you put the focus on the bigger picture, then you're not going to be as focused on the past, the pain, the hurt, the betrayal, the lies, the trying to figure out why. Why would they do this? How could this happen? Why would somebody hurt me like that? Like, it's easy to fall down that slippery slope, and I have been there myself, so I know. If you can shift that, though, and say, why did this happen? What does God need me to do with it? Still the same question, why, but it's a different focus and a different perspective. Why have I been through these trials? What have I learned from these trials? And because I've learned these lessons, what can I now do to improve myself and help others and improve others' lives as well? How can I do that? What are the reasons for this pain? So these are the questions that I challenge you to write about. Journal. Journaling is important. How many of you have ever sat in church and had them tell you to journal? Okay, me too, a lot of times. And I didn't realize that journaling wasn't just for my posterity to have a record, because that's how it was always taught to me. Like, you need a journal so your posterity has the record. What I realized in the last few years is the journaling is for me, because it helps me to get out those negative or those low vibrational emotions that I don't want to be holding on to. Helps me to vent those. It helps me to record miracles, so when I'm having a tough time, I can go back to those miracles and remember that there is order in this spiritual universe, and the chaos that I see isn't the bigger picture. And it helps me to be able to discover who I am. So I would encourage you guys to journal if you haven't on these topics, asking, why did I have these experiences? What is it meant to teach me and to help me to be greater? And also, if you don't know what your purpose is, I also suggest delving into your patriarchal blessing, looking at those gifts that are in there, that guidance. Most of you probably have one by now. I'm sure this, older crowd probably had them. I think you get them when you're 16 generally, or 21 if you go on a mission. If you haven't had one, get one. If you have one, read it, and it will help point you towards. When I figured out what I was supposed to be doing with this crazy chaos I went through, I read my blessing and I was like, oh, it all totally makes sense and guides to that and lines up. And it was that new perspective that helped me to see what it was telling me. And then also looking at your spiritual gifts. What are the gifts that God's given you? And maybe you've already developed them, or maybe you haven't yet. Maybe you're still developing them and you need to develop them more. I believe that it's kind of like the parable of the talents. Like, that's what it's about. Like, are you using those talents? And if you use them, you get more. So I think it's the same with spiritual gifts. If you use the spiritual gifts that you have now and you practice them and build them, then you get more. If you don't use them, then you might think that you just don't even have them, or they might go away or seem harder to hear. That's what I hear a lot. I don't have any spiritual gifts. God doesn't listen to me. You do. God does listen to you. He also talks to you, but do you hear him? And if you don't, there's nothing wrong about you. I'm not making you to be a bad person. I have not heard him sometimes before either, or heard and ignored many times. I did for even just with writing my book and starting my company. I ignored him for a year. I argued with him for a year, over a year. And what I've learned about that, though, is the more you act and listen, like they say with your faith, the more you practice the faith, it grows, and that's true. So the more you use these spiritual gifts, they grow. So one of the spiritual gifts that I had that I didn't understand that I had for a long time is in the healing arts, and doing energy healing and energy work. I didn't know anything about it. I just started going to conferences with my mom, and people would walk up and be like, "You're an incredible healer," and I'm like, "You're crazy." Like, that's literally what I thought. I didn't always say that because that's mean, but I would think that, like, oh my gosh, like, whatever. And then a few years later, I started getting promptings to go get attuned to Reiki, which is energy healing. I don't know if you guys know a lot about energy healing or anything really, but it's an energy healing modality. So I went to a class, and I got attuned to Reiki, and I felt no different after. And I was like, that was $2,500 down the drain. Like, what was that for? You know, like, it's a 3-day class. It wasn't cheap. And I followed this thing, and I did it, and I was like, okay, nothing's different. So fast forward a few years later, one day I was just, at that time in my life too, I was going to the temple a lot, which is really important. The temple's really important. I was going 2 or 3 days a week. And that spiritual gift of being able to feel energy and to heal people energetically came to me because I was following the advice to go to the temple, and I was trying 3 years later after being attuned and not feeling it for 3 years. And now it's like a brick wall. Like, if I'm doing energy work, who's familiar with energy work at all? Okay, so at least half of you, so I'm not like totally just talking, but basically you do a lot of work with filling people's energy. And I didn't know I had that gift. People told me, I thought they were crazy, and then I was led to do this training, and it did nothing. And then I did the training in 2011, and probably 3 years ago. Yeah, so 3 years later, I can feel energy like it's nobody's business. Like, in front of me right now, it's like there's a cement wall right here. And I just share that because it was a spiritual gift that I didn't know I had. And then when I tried to act on it, nothing happened, so I was tempted to just kind of give up. But then people would just ask me, like, "Hey, I heard you do Reiki, will you do Reiki?" And I would, but I never advertised it. And so I would do it when people would ask. And because I just kept doing it when it was inspired or prompted or whatever, I did get that gift, but it took 3 years. So it doesn't necessarily just happen overnight either. You know, maybe your patriarchal blessing says these gifts, and you're like, where are those gifts? Like, what? I don't see those. But that's a good place to start in figuring out what your purpose is. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock, so we're going to wind down, but I just want to review. To find your purpose, ask God. Spend time in prayer and meditation. You're probably already doing that. Like, we're all taught that. You'll know that. And then look at your patriarchal blessing and ask about your spiritual gifts and see how those spiritual gifts play into your bigger purpose and your role. Okay, so I hope you guys learned a little bit about science and energy, and you're going to be able to infuse your life with more passion. Oh, I told you guys to make the list of your passions, but I didn't give you the second half of the assignment. So it's jump out of bed with enthusiasm, dance, make a list of 10 things you're interested in or passionate about, and then set a time, a non-negotiable time every single week to spend at least 2 hours doing one of those things. I know we have kids. I know it's hard. Spend 2 hours every week doing something that you're passionate about, also known as interested in, and you will see your energy start to shift, because in that 2 hours, you're going to get your brain out of stress mode and into creativity mode. And you're going to see that your brain starts to literally rewire itself physically, neurologically. Okay. So please do that. Any questions? Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to come up and see me after. They asked us to do a handout, but I didn't get that memo until like 11:30 last night, so I didn't create a handout. If you are interested in the handout, put your email on this list here, and I will create a handout and email it to you about passion and purpose. Okay?
She also said that she would put it like get stuff from everybody and put it on the website or something.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I think it's
Because
gonna
she-
be on the website.
Great.
So
So
I'd
do
asked,
that
like,
then.
there's so many classes we can't go to them all. She's like, I'm gonna try to get a handout from everybody and put on there.
Perfect.
So.
Well, we can stop this question.